Morning, Ntsako. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a cold day, right in the middle of winter. So we
Yeah.
we we are we are trying to stay warm.
And I wonder what that looks like for nature as well. I mean, of course, we were taught in primary school the four seasons, and this is summer and autumn, winter, spring. But does nature conservation take a priority, especially during this time, because of what we're preparing for the summer and the hot weather?
Well, it does. Mostly in the zoological gardens and the botanical gardens. That's where you see quite a lot of action that needs to be done by the teams. But nature takes care of itself. Remember, it's well defined in South Africa or Southern Africa, or in some parts of the world with four seasons. It means you gotta grow, you gotta lose all the growth in terms of regeneration. Then you've got a rainy season that says we are planting, and then thereafter you also go to a point where you lose all that you've planted. So I think that when we look at nature, nature is very much aligned with itself. We as human beings are the ones who are not. That's why when you go to the field now, they move from one area to the other looking for water,
Mm.
while we are sitting in one place and we want water to come to us. So when it doesn't rain a lot, we struggle with drought. But when it doesn't rain a lot, animals they move from one area to the other to ensure that there's water available. So nature is well attuned to itself. We as human beings do not understand much about that, and we always think, "Oh, why is it raining in winter? Oh,
Mm.
why is it not raining for that matter in summer?"
Mm.
Whereas the seasonal patterns, the climatic patterns, are still changing in terms of how they need to be. So we're the ones who are way left behind.
But tell me, what are some of the main priorities as we're heading into the Ramsar Cup 15 within the SADC region? Or what are the things that we're prioritizing? I mean, even in its alignment, I think we also have to start aligning to nature because it is not fair that I don't know, it kind of reminds me like a self sustaining being. And then we just arrived with so much chaos. It actually paints nature as a very sensitive creature, and I'm wondering why we arrived with so much chaos. So, what are some of the main priorities as we headed there, and our contributions as well to its conservation?
Indeed, Ramsar Corp is a very interesting platform. It comes at the back of the two critical corps, which is CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Convention on Climate Change, and which is going to Brussels. So Ramsar comes at a very critical point wherein you will note that in the past 2, 3 years, Southern Africa has been hit by heavy droughts in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia. I think also Botswana, indicating that they are having national disasters. Ramsar Corp focuses strongly on how best we can manage our wetlands. The wetlands are a source of life because this is where we get water. And these wetlands, not only do they give us water, but give us water which is not only for cooperation, but also for development, sustainable development, for socioeconomic issues.
Mm.
When we go to the COP, few things that we need to look at. Ramsar has been working with the member states to develop and implement a plan called the Implementing Strategic Plan for 2025 to 2034. When we look at this, it's well aligned with some of the regional initiatives or national development plans for different member states, including South Africa for that matter,
Mm.
because you'll note that we are looking at the NDP, which ends in 2030, and beyond that, Africa is looking at 2063. We are looking at the balance strategy for the SADC. So we are best placed to look at this. What are the key elements as well? We want to enhance visibility and synergies with other environmental agreements. As I've indicated, the CBD has set they have a Kunming Montreal Agreement, Global Framework Agreement, which talks about biodiversity and its targets.
Mm.
We've got the climate change discussions that are talking about resource mobilization. Why not water? We had a land convention last year sitting in Saudi Arabia, which was also talking about priorities in terms of national action plan. So why not water? One of the priorities, I think, in addition to what I've already indicated, the national actions for wetland conservation are very critical. We also need to restore these wetlands because we've done a lot of damage into some of these wetlands. And additionally to that, wetlands are very critical because they not only provide us with fresh water, they help us in terms of our traditional knowledge, promoting sustainable lifestyle. And this COP also has to ensure that funding and resource mobilization must be made available to strengthen national and regional actions because we know we've got transboundary river basins. For example, the Orange River runs from Lesotho, South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. So we need to make sure that we maintain our riverine basin for good quality water, and that's very critical as we go to the Ramsar COP.
Yeah. Are there certain lifestyle mistakes or lifestyle choices that we make that contribute to the degrading or the, I guess, not necessarily preserving of our wetlands? I think about the effect of plastic in our oceans. I think about how we discard of chemical waste, which is typically, you know, the wetlands, our water reserves are the ones who kind of suffer the consequences of corporate decisions like those. What are some of the lifestyle and I guess corporate decisions and choices do we make that affect the wetlands, especially during winter where it is storing a lot of water and kind of preparing for the winter or the summer rains and the spring rains?
Indeed, Ntsako. I think let's start from the human perspective and the human pollution, as you've indicated.
Yeah.
We have done so much damage to our environment, and I'm not even sure whether it's a lifestyle, because then when you keep on dumping plastic on a stream, and people down the stream, they benefit a lot from these streams. What is that consciousness? Where is that environmental consciousness about taking care of the environment, adopting these wetlands, restoring these wetlands? There's also at an industrial level, where in industries they continue to pollute some of these wetlands, and there are no repercussions. So regulatory frameworks must come into action here. Legalities of you're not taking care of the environment or dumping into these wetlands must be really considered. Developmental priorities. I'll give you a very good example. We saw a few months back, the Vaal River was flooding. You won't believe how many houses were flooded because they are building on the banks or in the river within the floodplain. You know what they end up doing? They end up blaming government and say, yeah, government has allowed us to build here. And that's not exactly what is the case. So if we are continuously breaking the boundaries and say, oh, I want to have the best river view, but build 100 meters away from the floodplain. I want to have the best city. We have got beautiful cities in South Africa, in the region, actually, but they are contaminated because you don't have proper systems to ensure that people are taking away plastics. People are not taking care of the environment. The last part is on invasive plants. I think the continent and also the region of SADC, they've invested quite a lot in dealing with invasive species. For example, you've got a Working for Programs in South Africa, which was led by Department of Forestry and Environment. It simply says, you and I have got a responsibility to take care of the environment, particularly the wetlands. So we need to cut down those invasive species, use them for any other benefits. I know that the Forestry Department was actually using the products of invasive for furniture. Or for resource material for building. So those are some of the things that we benefit from. But our lifestyle is changing when we link it to climate change. And that immediately indicates that we are becoming a consumer-based society. Our rate of consumption is very high. We continuously buy plastics at shops. Like we don't know how to recycle them. We continuously dump everywhere. Even when we do the school awareness, the awareness with regard to pollution, we are seeing that pattern, and it's not changing a lot. So we need to find a way innovatively on how we can actually bring the communities closer and how they can actually now come back to become the key environmental custodians, because they are actually the owners of this environment, and we must give them their role and ensure that as much as we are developing tools and technologies in IUCN and many programs by government, if the communities are not closer to that, they cannot own it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything. It is
Yeah.
just, by the way, that program that is being done in the community.
And also the cohesive sub-regional program across SADC. What are some of the major milestones and kind of the lessons that you've learned from the transboundary conservation initiatives? You know, what are some of the things that you've learned and what are we taking into COP15? What are some of the lessons that we are taking into COP15 as part of the report?
Indeed, Ntsako, we as IUCN, we've got a very exciting announcement and a launch that we're going to be doing at the COP. So you have heard it from me the first time on the news space. So we were going to be launching a program called the SADC Ramsar Regional Initiative as IUCN. That simply means that we have been endorsed to host the Regional Wetland Initiative for the SADC countries, which will be looking at different programs and supporting different countries in the region in terms of wetland rehabilitation, management, resource mobilization, and also building that cohesiveness at the sub-regional level. Most importantly, we will also be building this based on the different initiatives that we already have with SADC Secretariat. So we are not operating as IUCN independently. We look at opportunities for partnership with the regional bodies and SADC for that matter. We've got an existing MOU with SADC, which talks about different areas of cooperation, including but not limited to water, climate change, biodiversity. I think in the past month, so we had a Ramsar we had a SADC Transfrontier Conservation Area financing facility meeting in Harare where we were celebrating 25 years. And for that matter, IUCN is actually the implementing partner for this particular program. In that, we then get to bring different governments, different beneficiaries in terms of the work that we do. So it's very critical that we also talk about those initiatives. We are also building the SADC Great Green Wall. Well, this is another one, Ntsako, which talks about land, climate change, and biodiversity. So it's more around productive ecosystems.
Yeah.
So those are some of the cohesive programs that brings different countries together. And when we do that, we ensure that we work with governments. As IUCN is an intergovernmental organization, we also work with community-based organizations or civil societies. The reason being, we get to see the real stories on the ground. What are the learning experiences? What is it that the communities are looking for? And how best do we address those? So if we can be able to have that interface that you have got science, policy, practice interface, it's very critical because it helps us to say, we can change. We are doing an adaptive learning here. We can change. If something is not working, we try something else. They're saying that if you do the same thing over and over again, it makes you one of those things. Yeah. So I think lastly, we also developed a disaster risk management and mitigation strategy. You will note that the SADC region has been hit by extreme patterns of climate change. If it's not flooding, it's drought.
Yeah.
And we've been hitting new temperatures every season. If it's not the lowest temperature, it's the highest temperature in over decades or over centuries. So we're looking at this strategy to say, how do we bring the different corporate bodies in South Africa, in the region, to work together in terms of reducing the disasters that we are dealing with in the region. So there's plenty of very good things that are happening in the region, and we've got several projects as IUCN and other partners. I think this is not only IUCN's work. We've got partners in the region, the Global Water Partnership. We've got UNEP, UNDP, and also countries, entities. You've got South Africa's National Biodiversity Institute, which already has been nominated as the Technical Support Center for Southern Africa. And you know what that means? It means that we are going to be learning by doing and sharing the information on biodiversity across the regions. And we have got organizations like Sandparks, whom we've got a lot of TFCA programs with them to look at cooperations between countries, and just that goes beyond conservation. We also talk about wetlands, we've got communities. So there's so many exciting stuff that's happening out there.
Truly. And I think it goes without saying that people generally have a knowledge fatigue when it comes to climate change. It's almost like they get tired of hearing it, but they're the same ones perpetrating certain acts that make us talk even more about it. You litter, but you don't want to hear about climate change. What are some of these strategies that you guys have to kind of improve the conversation as well? And on the ground, and also just increase community involvement, governmental involvement, and just the general participation in nature conservation?
Ntsako, you started with a very, very critical point, knowledge fatigue. And people, they keep on saying, learn more, learn more. Well, we got to do more. We got to do more. I fully agree with you. So back in 2011, 2012, going to 2015, we generated enough knowledge in this country to know what to do about climate change. By then, I was in the climate change team in the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. We then changed our message. Climate change is not all about modeling. It's about a reality. It's about what is happening now. It's the decision that you have to make this morning as you wake up that I was supposed to have cereals. I don't have cereals. I was supposed to have whatever option of breakfast that you cannot have because you do not have food. The bowl of food is becoming more expensive because you cannot run away from the fact that we are not producing more because of climate change. When we don't have enough rainfall, we cannot produce more. Those small-scale, smallholder farmers, they've been hit by drought, whether it's an early onset of rainfall, which was not good enough, or late onset of rainfall, which was bad for that matter, because they cannot produce the amount of corns that must be made available in the market. The same goes, these unpredictable temperatures have got a huge impact on poultry farming. So the message is clear. Let's go back to basics. These farmers have got knowledge that we need to use, and we must make use of it in terms of addressing our issues. So what are some of our issues? Youth unemployment. And someone will think, oh, okay, how do you link these two? What are you talking about? The fact that we cannot have we cannot industrialize or go big on farming simply because we have got unpredictability in terms of climate patterns. These people, they pump resources into agriculture, and then you do not know what to expect because there's no income. That's the first part. The tools and the innovation of our communities must be very clear that we want to use this traditional knowledge infused with this technical advancement, which you call it IR, and all its benefits. How do we make use of that? Then the second part becomes the communication of this message. Well, I've seen policy developments. I'm actually writing more around policy developments on my PhD.
Yeah.
It's very clear the landscape on policy has developed. What has not been coming to forth is examples of what adaptation looks like, examples of what mitigation. Well, mitigation has done quite a lot of work because we used to have 60 watts. Now we've got better bulbs that we can use, long-lasting bulbs. We've changed different equipments. A lot of things have happened in that space. But our communities are left behind because for them, it's a source of life. It's a livelihood that is threatened. And now they are walking long distances. Remember, everybody, when you interview them, they're like, oh, as a 7-year-old, I used to walk 7 kilometers to school. Now people are walking 7 to 10 kilometers to get water. Back then, there are wetlands, there are freshwater ecosystem that were well taken care of, and they were clear, they were closer, they were clean, for that matter. Now, the cleanest river system from Pretoria, you must be going to Limpopo.
Oh, jeez.
Because most of the rivers in Gauteng, if you look at them, you can't go and source water from them unless otherwise. So climate change has actually caused such chaos into our livelihoods that people are depending on buying water. People never used to buy water. We used to just walk down the road, find a stream flowing, you drink that water because quality will be good, it won't be polluted. So we are not coming up with real action simply because we are consumed with the knowledge, and people are now thinking, is this some type of marketing geek, wherein people are going to be talking about climate change. Climate change is a reality. We need to plan better. I've started arguing that when we had floods in Durban, I think this was like around 2015, 2016. I said, this is not entirely about climate change. It's about how we are planning our cities. When we look at cities like Gauteng, well, in all the cities in Gauteng, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, and Johannesburg, why are they getting flooded? These are the best cities in the world. These are some of the best cities in the world. It's because our planning system, our improvement in terms of development, it's not effective.
Yeah.
An area like Centurion, we keep on pumping industrial development there. It's a wetland. You go to Centurion, it's so cold. It tells you, oh, there's water all over here. So these are some of the signs that we need to take care of, and we need to align our developmental pathways. We need to align our plans in terms of planning and bring the relevant people on the table so that we can inform these decisions around planning and addressing climate change. It's not only an environmental issue. That's the mistake that we did for the longest time. It is now a COGTA issue. It's now a local government issue. And even big cities are struggling with this. So we need to change the conversation. I agree with you. Policies are there, very effective. They can only be effective when you implement them. But when you read South Africans' policies, Ntsako, make no mistake, they are very clear who's supposed to do what, who's supposed to bring stakeholders together. But are we doing that? That's the million-dollar question.
Now, thank you so much for engaging in this conversation. We look forward to the COP15 because clearly it's being spearheaded by people who know what they're talking about. And we look forward to also just us playing the role of being global citizens and not causing chaos for nature, who is really as peaceful as she comes. So thank you so much for your time. Is there any way we can follow the work of the IUCN?
Yes, indeed. I was actually earlier on when I was joining, and I was trying to check on our LinkedIn page and also our Twitter page. Well, they call it X. We're still stuck with the Twitter page. So we do have got links on the X page, which you can follow IUCN South Africa, IUCN in terms of the global IUCN handle. You can also follow our work on LinkedIn page. So that will be, and we will do quite a lot of announcement by just taking some of the communities that we work with. So I was looking at if we have link with yourselves, and I realized that okay, we are not following each other. So we'll also tag you in some of these discussions and meetings that we do.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful one, and all the best for COP15.
Thank you so much, Ntsako, and we'll keep you guys in touch.
Amazing stuff. That was Vhalinavho Khavhagali, who is a country representative for the International Union for Conservation of Nature in South Africa. It is at 8:42 Central African time. Let's take a quick break.
Get Channel Africa on